Besties, how you doing? Today we're going to be keeping it real. We're not going to be sugarcoating things. We're not going to be living in Delulu land. We're just going to be keeping it real with ourselves in this plant community. Because except you've been living under a rock, you will notice that there has been a considerable decline in the amount of people that seem to be into our plant hobby. Every now and then you wake up to that one Instagram plant page that used to post on the regular, and then all of a sudden they stop. Every now and then we wake up to that one YouTube plant page that used to give us the plant content that we like and love, and all of a sudden they don't post as frequently, and then they suddenly stop. So we're beginning to see what feels like a decline, especially when you compare it to about 2 or 3 years ago, 2020 to 2022. And one can categorically conclude that people are just not into houseplants like they used to be a couple of years back. This is not to say we still do not have die-hard houseplant enthusiasts like you and I, but just overall there has been a decline. Do you feel me? Now, if you've ever wondered why that is the case, well, in this notebook, I've written down 5 core reasons, 5 core and in some cases overlooked reasons that people just aren't into plants like they used to be before. Some of you know when this notebook is out, the industry is about to be shooked and things about to be exposed. So babes, grab your coffee, grab your popcorn, grab whatever you want to get, and let's sit down and really talk about some of the reasons I've observed why people aren't into houseplants like they used to be before. The first point, and this one is often overlooked, but as a content creator, as a plant content creator, I can tell you this for free. The first one is that plant content just doesn't get you as much traction as it used to before. It's not getting the girlies as much likes, it's not getting the girlies as much views as it used to back then, in the likes of 2020, 2021, where you could literally make a video about propagating a pothos and it will get you millions of views. I kid you not. Now, I don't know about you, but social media definitely played a massive influence in me getting into plants. I was just so in awe back then and fascinated by people who had plants in their home, in their living room. I was like, oh my God, this is so cool. I want to be part of the cool kids. And I basically just bought plants for that reason, to be a cool social media girly. And then I eventually got plants and realized that there was more meaning into it. But the point is, people were really fascinated back then in the likes of 2020, 2021, pandemic days. They were so fascinated by seeing like human beings actually living with plants and nature indoors, and they gushed at any content that these people put up. Like back then, you could literally make content about the most basic of plant things and it will do numbers, it will get you likes. I feel like if I were like a regular and serious YouTuber in the likes of 2020, 2021, I probably would have built a mansion in Nigeria by now. Because the girlies back then were getting views for spewing the most generic of information. There was a lot of misinformation back then. You and I know there was a lot of misinformation back then about how to take care of plants. Everyone was making every care video that there was. They would literally just go to their big box store, buy a plant, and after like 30 minutes of owning this plant, they will set up their camera and be like, here's how to take care of this plant, and bam, 100k views. So a lot of people were honestly cosplaying as plant parents for the likes, for the views, and for the clicks. Well, babes, things have changed. But right now, people are not as easily impressed or as, fascinated by the concept of having houseplants in your home. And for some, it's not even really a flex. All that whole indoor jungle vibes, for some, I'm going to talk about that in my next point. It's not even a flex. It's even traumatizing and triggering for them. What has now happened is that there has been a sharp decline in the amount of views, in the amount of likes, and consequently in the amount of revenue that comes with talking about plants and posting plant content. So the ones that have stuck by are those that are really passionate about it, and also those that are now more creative about it. And you can only be creative if you're passionate about something. So all of those people that were cosplaying as plant people for the likes and for the views and for the traction and all of that, they have fizzled off. They have been weeded off. They have gone back to Party City where they actually belong. Now let's move on to the next point. I do have to check my note quickly because we're millennials, short-term memory loss. So the next point is people got burnt out. People got way too many plants. 2020, 2021 pandemic era when the whole plant craze happened. The girlies were excited and they quickly rushed and bought way too many plants than the average human being can realistically take care of. And let me tell you something, as somebody who grows plants both indoors, as you can see, and who also grows plants outdoors, the truth of the matter is it is far more tedious to actually maintain plants indoors than it is outdoors. With my outdoor girlies, I literally sometimes just leave them to the elements and they take care of themselves. Now that it's the rainy season in my nation, I pretty much don't even water these plants. I can go like literally a month and not have to water most of them. And they'll be fine. I just come out and say, "Hi guys doing? Oh, hi, I admire them. Hi. And I enter inside my house. That is not the same with these indoor girlies. These indoor girlies, you literally have to put in the work. You have to water them. You have to fertilize them because they do not have access to the elements. And if you have a lot of plants indoors, if you literally turned your indoor space to a jungle, you're going to realize that this is a lot of work. It gets messy. It doesn't get cute. You're gonna really realize that, oh my God, I have put myself under unnecessary workload. You're gonna quickly realize that. And for some, it literally left them traumatized. It did. I remember seeing a TikTok a couple of months ago of a major creator who literally was just crying. She was like, all her plants aren't doing well. She's tired. It was a very raw and honest moment. She had since deleted that video, but it was a very raw and honest moment because she was so clearly overwhelmed because she had such a large collection. A lot of our favorite YouTubers that literally have this huge jungle indoors, this is their full-time gig. This is their full-time job. That's what they do full-time. But if you're the average Joe who has to, go to work, you have a 9 to 5, you have to take care of your children, you have other responsibilities, then you've just given yourself extra work. So a lot of people actually got burnt out really fast, and a lot of people just sold off their plants. And for some, the whole thought of even having plants is like triggering. You're like, please, I don't want to have to deal with what I did before. So yeah, this is point number 2 as to why it seems that people aren't as interested in plants as they used to be before. If you're enjoying this video, please like and subscribe. It really helps and support my channel. Thank you. Now let's move on to the next point. This point is going to be an interesting one. The next point is plants became too accessible. You would think that this is a good thing for like the masses, for the general consensus, but for some people, the main reason why they got into this hobby is because of the exclusive factor that came with owning a lot of these exotic plants. And back then in 2020, like a lot of plants were really inaccessible. A lot of house plants. I remember when everyone wanted a pink princess. Do you remember that? So if you had a pink princess back then, you were like the girlies. Everyone was like, oh my God, oh Jesus, oh look at the fascination. Then remember the Thai constellation that everyone wanted. Now your Thai constellation, you can find it in your big box stores for like $20. So a lot of plants, especially the aeroids, like were inaccessible. Now, thanks to like the likes of tissue culture, and this is true if you live in a country that has like tissue culture and all of that. Thanks to the likes of tissue culture, a lot of plants have become literally accessible. You can literally walk into your average Walmart Your average Trader Joe's and see that plants that was considered a rare gem back in 2020, back in 2021. And for some snobs, they were like, no, I didn't get into this hobby so that you peasants can have access to all these rare plants. Back then, there was like such a fascination with rare plants, and like I look at some of those older videos. This is why I tell people don't be hell bent on rare plants, because rare plants are like trends. After a while, everyone has them and no one is that in, and most people aren't into them again. Half of the plants that were considered rare back then, every Tom and Harry has them now. It's funny. So for some, plants lost that exclusivity, posh, gatekeeping factor. And this is low-key why I feel like people aren't into philodendrons like they used to be. Because these days, every philodendron seems to be one that you can find in your big box stores now. That's human beings for you. We place more value on things that other people can't have. Yeah, but let me know your thoughts below. Do you agree with me on plants being now more accessible and how that has affected certain people, certain snobs, and why they are not into the hobby like they used to be? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, babes. Now let's move on to the next one, which is a bit linked to the accessibility factor. And this also depends on where you live in the world, because in my part of the world, that's not the case. But if you live in the likes of America or places where tissue culture is like, prolific, then this point rings true. Plants became too cheap. 2020, plants were at an all-time high. Plant prices were like incredulous. But right now, there has been such a massive and sharp decline in the prices of plants. And although at the end of the day, that is actually good for like consumers, a lot more people now don't have to spend as much to have as many exotic plants like before. If you are a small business, then it's not so great, because obviously these other big businesses, the likes of the Costa Farms, all of that, they have the resources to actually make their prices way more competitive. Now, for small businesses, for small plant businesses, they can't keep up with the competitive prices. Look, human beings will always go for the cheaper price, especially if you're selling pretty much the same thing. They will always go for the cheaper. A lot of plant shops and small plant businesses have actually had to close down. Another thing is, because plants became too cheap, the hobby lost its esteem to certain people. The snobs of society, basically. These are people we actually don't want in our community, so it's actually even a good thing. There are certain people that got into this hobby because of like, it was an obvious sign that you were affluent. I mean, if you could afford a pink princess back then in 2020, then you were considered an affluent girl, because it wasn't a cheap plant. And for some, they loved that flex. They love people seeing their plant collection and going, yes, you're rich, you're affluent, all of that. And for those people, now that they see that anyone, even if you have a minimum paying job, you can walk into your big box store and like get yourself a Thai constellation, get yourself all those rare exotic plants. So for some people, again, the snobs of society, for some people, they're like, okay, this hobby doesn't seem as posh as it used to be before. So let me leave it for, people of the peasants or the peasants, the masses to play around. And all good. We don't want those people. We don't want people that will be intimidating us with their plants. We just want people that just love plants regardless of whether they're cheap, common, rare, basic, expensive. They just love greenery. Those are the type of people that we have more of or are left behind now. So this decline isn't exactly a bad thing. It's just sieving the shaft from the wheat, or the wheat from the shaft, however that term is said. So yeah, that is, what number are we on? Are we on number 4? That's the four. Let me check my notes. Wait, please. Old age, guys. Old age. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's part number 4. Guys, okay. Moving on to the last one, I'm going to get a bit personal in this one because this one has actually affected me. You know how I said plants are cheap for you guys over in the US because of tissue culture? Well, the reverse is the case here because right now plants are literally at an all-time high, which leads me to my 5th point, the cost of living crisis. So for a lot of places in the world, the girlies are literally struggling financially and there's a cost of living crisis. People do not have as much disposable income as they used to due to like high inflation and the cost of basic essentials. That's the reality, basically. That is the reality. And my country is like living proof of that. We are right now experiencing unprecedented inflation. Our currency has heavily depreciated against the US dollar, and the price of everything has just quadrupled and gone up. So the fact of the matter is people do not have as much disposable income as they used to. And reality of the matter is house plants are actually considered like a luxury item because even though it has a ton of amazing benefits, you know, aesthetically, ornamentally, for your mental health and for your productivity, all of that, the fact of the matter is that you can actually do without it. You don't need it. When push comes to shove, you don't need it. So those that actually buy it are those that actually have money to spend on their wants. But now that we are in this situation, in this whole cost of living crisis, a lot of people are choosing to prioritize and spend more on things that they actually need. And unfortunately, plants fall under the bracket of things that they don't really need. And as somebody who sells plants, I've honestly felt the brunt. Honestly, like my profit this year really declined. Babes, this time last year, I was booked and busy. Like, I didn't even have the time and the energy to literally be sitting down and making this YouTube video. I was always going from one installation to the other. But that has not been the case this year. Profit has declined. And which is why this year I told myself, babes, you have to take your YouTube very seriously. Like you have to take your YouTube very seriously so that it can literally supplement your income. And I'm so grateful to the Lord that everything seems to be going according to plan, which is why I cannot thank you guys enough for watching my videos, for interacting with my videos, for still finding me watchable all the way here in Africa. So thank you guys. So I think that's all. I was really enjoying this and I wish I actually came up with more points. But if I can think about more points, I will definitely do a part 2. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please, let's continue this conversation in the comments. I usually reply literally all my comments. Like I sit down and I reply all my comments. So please, by all means, comment below what you thought about this video. But for now, I'll have to see you guys in the next video. Bye, babes.